3 in the morning. Your mind won't stop. The mortgage payment, that awkward conversation with your boss, your kid's college tuition, that weird pain in your shoulder. It's all swirling around like a tornado in your brain. You grab your phone, scroll through social media, and somehow feel worse. Sound familiar? Here's what's fascinating. 2,000 years ago, the most powerful people in Rome faced the same racing thoughts. The emperor who ruled the known world couldn't sleep because of anxiety. The richest merchants in the empire worried about their futures. The greatest generals stressed about their decisions. But they had something we've forgotten, a simple practice that transformed their anxiety into wisdom. Today, I'm sharing 5 Stoic journaling secrets that have survived 2 millennia because they actually work. These aren't just feel-good tips or Instagram quotes. These are battle-tested techniques that Roman emperors, Greek philosophers, and successful leaders throughout history have used to master their minds. What makes these secrets so powerful? They're stupidly simple. You don't need a special app, an expensive course, or a psychology degree. You just need paper, a pen, and 5 minutes. That's it. The same tools Marcus Aurelius used to govern an empire while dealing with plagues, wars, and family drama. Here at Stoic Vivu, we believe ancient wisdom shouldn't stay ancient. It should live and breathe in your daily life, helping you navigate modern chaos with timeless principles. These 5 journaling secrets will show you exactly how to take philosophy off the bookshelf and into your morning routine, where it can actually change your life. The first secret will reveal why starting with just 1 line per day is more powerful than writing pages. The second exposes why your expensive note-taking app is actually sabotaging your progress. The third shows you why repetition, which seems boring, is actually the key to transformation. The fourth gives you a healthy alternative to doom scrolling when anxiety strikes at midnight. And the fifth teaches you the scientific approach to thoughts that Roman philosophers discovered centuries before modern psychology. Each of these secrets builds on the previous one, creating a complete system for mental mastery. You'll see how emperors, senators, and philosophers used these exact techniques to handle pressures that would break most modern minds. More importantly, you'll learn how to adapt these ancient practices to your contemporary life. Whether you're dealing with work stress in Manhattan, family drama in Los Angeles, or financial pressure in Chicago. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your smartphone is making your anxiety worse, how one simple line each day can rewire your brain, and why the most powerful man in Rome spent his mornings doing exactly what you're about to learn. Ready to discover how ancient medicine can cure your modern mind? Let's dive into secret number 1. Secret number 1. The 1-line rule that builds unbreakable habits. Imagine you're standing in a Brooklyn bookstore, staring at a wall of beautiful leather journals. You pick up the most expensive one, feeling its weight, imagining all the profound thoughts you'll write. You picture yourself as a modern philosopher, filling pages with insights every morning. Fast forward 3 weeks. That gorgeous journal is collecting dust under a pile of mail with exactly 2.5 entries. The guilt hits you every time you see it. Here's where the ancient Stoics were smarter than us. They understood something crucial about human nature that we keep forgetting in our age of optimization and productivity hacks. Epictetus, who went from slave to renowned philosopher, taught that wisdom comes not from grand gestures but from small daily actions. He didn't tell his students to write elaborate philosophical treatises. He told them to practice one thought, one principle, one reflection at a time. The one-line rule is deceptively simple. Write just one line in your journal every single day. Not a page, not a paragraph. One line. That's it. This might sound too easy, almost insulting to your intelligence. You're capable of so much more, right? But that's exactly the trap that kills most habits before they even start. Think about it this way. When you commit to writing 3 pages every morning, your brain immediately starts calculating the time and effort required. It's like telling yourself you'll run a marathon every day when you haven't jogged around the block in years. Your mind rebels before you even begin. But one line? Your brain can't come up with a valid excuse against writing one single line. It takes 30 seconds. You can do it while your coffee brews. The magic happens through compound effect. After a week of writing one line, you've created a neural pathway. Your brain starts expecting this tiny ritual. After a month, it becomes automatic, like brushing your teeth. And here's the beautiful part: some days that one line naturally flows into 2, then 3, then a full paragraph. But you never pressure yourself. The commitment remains just one line. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, understood this principle deeply. When you read his meditations, you'll notice many entries are surprisingly short. Sometimes just a single observation. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That's it. One powerful line that has inspired millions. He wasn't trying to impress anyone or fill a quota. He was simply maintaining a daily practice of reflection. A software engineer in Seattle started with one line about her daily debugging challenges. 6 months later, she had unconsciously documented her entire problem-solving evolution. A restaurant owner in Miami began writing one line about his most difficult customer each day. Within 3 months, he had inadvertently created a masterclass in patience and business psychology. A single mother in Phoenix wrote one line each night about something her teenager did that day. A year later, she had captured her child's entire transformation from 13 to 14 moments she would have forgotten forever. The Stoics called this concept kata miras, which means according to nature or in accordance with nature. They recognized that sustainable change happens gradually, naturally, like a tree growing ring by ring. Modern science backs this up. Neuroscientists have discovered that small, consistent actions literally rewire your brain more effectively than sporadic, intense efforts. Your neural pathways strengthen through repetition, not intensity. But here's what most people miss about the one-line rule. It's not really about the writing. It's about showing up. It's about proving to yourself every single day that you can keep a commitment. This daily victory, however small, builds what the Stoics called disciplina, the foundation of all virtue. When you can trust yourself with one line, you begin to trust yourself with bigger challenges. The implementation is crucial. Choose a specific time, preferably in the morning before the day's chaos begins. Keep your journal in the same spot. Use the same pen. Create a ritual around it. Maybe you write your line right after you pour your coffee, or immediately after you wake up, while still in bed. The consistency of time and place helps cement the habit faster. What should you write? Anything. An observation about the weather. A worry that's bothering you. Something you're grateful for. A lesson you learned. A quote that struck you. The content matters less than the act itself. Remember, you're not performing for history. You're building a practice that will serve you for life. Some days, your line might be profound. I realize today that my anger at others is really disappointment in myself. Other days, it might be mundane. Traffic was horrible, but I stayed calm. Both are equally valuable. The profound entries give you insights. The mundane ones prove you can maintain discipline even when uninspired. Common sabotage patterns to avoid include perfectionism, trying to make each line meaningful or quotable. Some people freeze up, thinking their one line must be Twitter-worthy wisdom. That's not the point. Also avoid playing catch-up. If you miss a day, don't try to write 2 lines the next day. Just return to 1 line. The rule never changes. The beauty of starting with the 1-line rule is that it removes every possible excuse. Too busy? You have 30 seconds. Not a good writer. It's just 1 line. Nothing interesting to say? Write that down. Travel frequently? Pack a pocket notebook. The simplicity becomes its own form of power. After 90 days of 1-line entries, something shifts. The practice becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone trying to journal. You're a person who journals. This identity shift is what separates temporary habits from lifetime practices. And it all started with a commitment so small your mind couldn't talk you out of it. 2. Secret number 2. Why paper beats your phone every time. You're sitting in a San Francisco coffee shop, watching a tech entrepreneur pull out a Moleskine notebook. In a city where people order lattes with their Apple Watch, this seems almost rebellious. You wonder why someone with access to the most advanced note-taking apps would choose dead trees and ink. Then you remember that Marcus Aurelius conquered half the known world with the ancient equivalent of a composition notebook. Here's a truth that might sting. Your sophisticated digital tools are making you weaker, not stronger. Every productivity app promises to revolutionize your life, but they're actually creating new problems while pretending to solve old ones. The second Stoic secret cuts through this modern delusion with ancient clarity. Use physical paper for your journaling. Always. No exceptions. This isn't about being old-fashioned or rejecting technology. This is about understanding how your brain actually works versus how Silicon Valley wants it to work. When you write by hand on paper, something profound happens that no app can replicate. Your brain engages differently. The physical act of forming letters with your hand activates neural pathways that typing simply doesn't touch. Neuroscientists call this the generation effect. You remember and process information better when you generate it through physical writing rather than typing. Marcus Aurelius didn't know the neuroscience, but he understood the practice. His meditations weren't typed into a cloud-based system. They were scratched onto wax tablets and papyrus with his own hand. This physical act of writing forced him to slow down, to be deliberate with each word. When you're carving thoughts into wax, you don't waste time on mental junk food. Every word counts. Consider what happens with your phone journal. You open the app, and immediately you're bombarded. A notification from Instagram, a text from your mom, an email marked urgent that isn't. Your journaling app is swimming in an ocean of distractions. Even with notifications off, your brain knows they're there, waiting. Studies show that just having your phone visible reduces cognitive performance by 10%. Your mind is partially attending to the device even when you're not using it. A Wall Street analyst discovered this truth the hard way. For 3 years, she meticulously logged her thoughts in a premium journaling app. One software update corrupted her files. 3 years of insights, growth, and self-discovery gone. She switched to paper notebooks and never looked back. Now she has a shelf of journals, each one a tangible piece of her journey. Fire or flood might destroy them, but no software glitch will make them vanish into digital void. Physical journals create what psychologists call cognitive boundaries. When you open a notebook, your brain understands this is reflection time. There's no tab to switch to, no other app to check. The boundary is physical, real. It's like entering a temple versus walking past one. The act of opening your journal becomes a ritual that signals your mind to shift into a different mode. The Stoics understood the power of physical rituals. Seneca wrote his letters by hand, even though he could have dictated to scribes. The physical act was part of the practice. When you write by hand, you can't delete and rewrite endlessly. You must live with your thoughts as they emerge, crossouts and all. This teaches acceptance of imperfection, a core Stoic principle. Your messy handwriting on Tuesday shows you were rushed. Your careful script on Saturday reveals a calm mind. The journal becomes a mirror not just of your thoughts but of your state of mind. There's also the sensory element that digital can't match. The weight of the pen, the texture of paper, the sound of writing, these create what neuroscientists call embodied cognition. Your body helps your mind process information. The physical act of journaling becomes a form of meditation. You're not just recording thoughts. You're physically processing them through your entire nervous system. Paper eliminates the comparison trap. On digital platforms, even private ones, you're subtly influenced by the format. You've seen other people's posts, their carefully curated thoughts. Your brain can't help but perform, even for an audience of one. But a paper journal has no like button, no share function, no way to go viral. It's genuinely private in a way digital never can be. Here's what the tech industry doesn't want you to know. Their most successful executives often journal on paper. While creating products designed to capture your attention, they protect their own attention with analog tools. They understand that the medium shapes the message. Digital tools are designed for speed and efficiency. Paper is designed for depth and reflection. The practical benefits multiply. Paper journals don't need charging. They don't update and lose features you liked. They don't sync across devices, potentially exposing your private thoughts. They age beautifully, becoming artifacts of your journey. 20 years from now, you can open that journal and instantly connect with who you were. Try accessing a digital file from 20 years ago. If you can even find the right cable or software, the file format is probably obsolete. An Austin teacher keeps her journals from the past decade on a single shelf. Sometimes she pulls one down randomly and reads an entry. It's like having coffee with her younger self. She sees how problems that seemed insurmountable resolve themselves. She watches her wisdom deepen. This physical library of her inner life provides perspective no digital archive could match. The Stoics believed in living according to nature, and paper is natural in a way pixels never will be. When you write on paper, you're engaging in an act humans have performed for thousands of years. There's something deeply satisfying about this connection to history. You're part of an unbroken chain stretching back to ancient philosophers, medieval monks, Renaissance thinkers, and every person who ever put pen to paper to understand themselves better. 3. Secret number 3. Write the same thing over and over and why it works. A Chicago executive opens her journal every morning and writes the exact same sentence she wrote yesterday. "I am patient with difficult people." She's been writing this identical line for 47 days straight. Her colleagues think she's lost her mind. But something remarkable is happening. That hot-tempered client who used to make her blood boil, she handled him yesterday with the calm of a Zen master. The repetition isn't madness. It's ancient wisdom in action. Here's what nobody tells you about personal transformation. Your brain doesn't care about variety, cares about repetition. While the modern world obsesses over novelty, constantly seeking the next hack, the next insight, the next breakthrough, the Stoics understood a deeper truth. Real change comes from returning to the same fundamental principles again and again until they become part of your mental DNA. Epictetus taught this concept through a powerful metaphor. He compared philosophical training to physical exercise. You don't go to the gym once, lift every weight in the building, and emerge transformed. You return day after day, repeating the same movements. Eventually, what once required enormous effort becomes natural. Your muscles remember. The same process works with your mind, but most people never give repetition enough time to work its magic. Think about how you learned your native language. You didn't memorize a dictionary and suddenly speak fluently. You heard the word mama thousands of times before it meant anything. You repeated sounds endlessly before they became words. This repetitive process is how your brain prefers to learn everything, including wisdom. Yet somehow, when it comes to personal development, we expect instant transformation from reading something once. Marcus Aurelius understood this perfectly. When you read his meditations, you'll notice he returns to the same themes repeatedly. The obstacle is the way. What disturbs you is your judgment, not the event itself. We were born to work together. He wasn't forgetful or running out of ideas. He was deliberately drilling these concepts into his consciousness through repetition. Each time he wrote about accepting fate, he carved the groove a little deeper. A Portland nurse discovered this power accidentally. Struggling with burnout, she started writing, "I choose compassion over frustration," every morning. First, it felt fake, even silly. But after 2 weeks, she noticed something shifting. When faced with difficult patients, the phrase would surface automatically. After a month, compassion became her default response. The repetition had rewired her automatic reactions. She hadn't just learned about compassion. She had become more compassionate. The neuroscience behind this is fascinating. Every time you repeat a thought or action, you strengthen specific neural pathways. It's like walking the same route through a forest. The first time, you're bushwhacking through undergrowth. The 100th time, you're walking a clear trail. The 1000th time, it's a paved road. Your brain literally changes its physical structure based on what you repeat. Neurons that fire together wire together, as neuroscientists say. But here's where most people sabotage themselves. They write, "I am confident" twice, "don't feel different," and quit. They expect repetition to work like a light switch when it actually works like erosion. Water doesn't carve a canyon in a day. It takes millions of identical drops falling on the same spot. Your repeated thoughts are those drops, and your ingrained patterns are the rock. Be patient with the process. The Stoics called this practice premeditatio or premeditation. They would repeatedly contemplate the same scenarios, the same principles, the same responses. not because they were pessimistic or obsessive, but because they understood that wisdom isn't something you have. It's something you practice. Every repetition makes the next challenge easier to handle with grace. Consider how this works in real situations. An entrepreneur in Boston writes, "I focus on what I control every morning." Sounds simple, almost childish. But when his biggest client threatens to leave, when his investor pulls out, when his key employee quits, that phrase has been so deeply embedded it becomes his immediate response. Instead of panicking about what others are doing, he automatically shifts to what he can control. The repetition has created an instant wisdom reflex. There's also something profound about seeing your own handwriting repeat the same truth day after day. It's evidence of your commitment. On day 1, writing, "I respond instead of react," might feel aspirational. By day 30, seeing those previous 29 entries proves you're serious about change. By day 100, the accumulated repetitions create undeniable momentum. You're no longer someone trying to be less reactive. You're becoming someone who responds thoughtfully. The key is choosing the right phrases to repeat. They should address your specific struggles and aspirations. If you explode in traffic, maybe it's, "I remain calm in delays." If you're building a business, perhaps, "I persist through setbacks." If you're healing from heartbreak, possibly, "I am whole and complete." The phrase should feel slightly uncomfortable, like a stretch. If it's too easy, you're not growing. If it's too hard, you won't believe it. Some people worry this practice is self-brainwashing. But consider the alternative. You're already repeating thoughts all day long. "I'm not good enough. Why does this always happen to me? I can't handle this." These unconscious repetitions are shaping your reality whether you realize it or not. The Stoic practice simply makes you conscious of what you're repeating and gives you control over the process. Seneca took this even further. He would write lengthy letters exploring the same themes from different angles. One week he might write about death from the perspective of loss. The next week, from the perspective of natural transition. The following week, from the perspective of urgency to live well. Same core topic, slightly different approaches, deepening understanding through repetition with variation. A Miami teacher applies this principle by writing 3 variations of the same truth each morning. "I have enough time for what matters. There is time for everything important. I create time through my priorities." The repetition with slight variation prevents the practice from becoming mechanical while still embedding the core message. Her relationship with time has transformed from constant scarcity to conscious abundance. The resistance to repetition often comes from our entertainment-seeking culture. We want journaling to be exciting, revealing new insights daily. But transformation isn't entertainment. It's more like farming. You plant the same seeds in the same soil and tend them with the same care until harvest. The Stoics understood that wisdom grows through patience, not novelty. Ultimately, this practice teaches a deeper lesson about human nature. We are what we repeatedly think, not what we occasionally consider or briefly understand, but what we return to again and again. By consciously choosing your repetitions, you're choosing who you become. In essence, you're not just writing the same thing over and over. You're writing yourself into existence, one repeated truth at a time. 4. Secret number 4. Dump your 3 a.m. thoughts here instead of Twitter. The clock glows 3:17 a.m. in your Phoenix bedroom. Your partner sleeps peacefully beside you, but your mind races like a Formula One car on Red Bull. That conversation with your mother-in-law keeps replaying. The credit card bill haunts you. Your teenager's attitude problem feels unsolvable. You grab your phone, thumb hovering over Twitter, ready to unleash your anxiety into the digital void. Stop. This moment, right here, is where ancient wisdom meets modern insomnia. The fourth Stoic secret transforms your darkest hours into your greatest teacher. When anxiety strikes, when anger boils over, when fear grips your chest, don't reach for your phone. Reach for your journal. Paper, as the Stoics discovered 2,000 years ago, is the most patient listener you'll ever find. It never judges, never interrupts, never screenshots your vulnerability to share with others. Seneca, the Roman philosopher who advised emperors, had a nightly practice that would seem extreme today. He would review his entire day, examining every emotion, every reaction, every moment of weakness or strength. But here's the crucial part: he wrote it all down. Not for posterity, not for his students, but for his own emotional processing. He understood something we've forgotten in our age of instant sharing. Some thoughts need to be expressed but not broadcasted. Consider what happens when you tweet or post during emotional turmoil. You're seeking validation, connection, understanding. But what you often get is misinterpretation, judgment, or worse, silence. That vulnerable 3 a.m. tweet becomes tomorrow's regret. Meanwhile, the original problem remains unprocessed, festering beneath the surface. You've scratched the itch but haven't healed the wound. A Los Angeles screenwriter learned this lesson painfully. For years, she live-tweeted her anxiety attacks, her relationship drama, her career frustrations. The dopamine hit from likes and replies felt like connection. But one night, her vulnerable thread about imposter syndrome went viral for all the wrong reasons. Strangers dissected her insecurities. Her employers saw her self-doubt. Her anxiety multiplied exponentially. She deleted Twitter and bought a journal. Now, those 3 a.m. demons go onto paper, where they can be faced without an audience. Here's what makes paper so powerful for emotional processing. It slows you down. When you're furiously typing a tweet, you're operating at the speed of rage. But when you're writing by hand, especially at 3 a.m. when you're tired, you naturally move slower. This speed reduction is a feature, not a bug. It forces you to actually experience your emotions rather than just ejecting them into the world. The Stoics had a concept called catalepsis, clear comprehension. They believed you couldn't address an emotion until you truly understood it. Writing helps you achieve this clarity. That anger at your coworker? As you write, you might discover it's really fear about job security. That anxiety about your kid. Through writing, you realize it's projection of your own teenage struggles. Paper helps you dig beneath the surface emotion to find the root cause. A Boston surgeon started journaling after a patient death led to crippling insomnia. Every night, the scene replayed. Should he have acted sooner? Made different choices? Social media offered no solace. How could strangers understand the weight of holding life in your hands? But his journal became a safe space to explore his guilt, his humanity, his limitations. Through writing, he distinguished between reasonable self-reflection and destructive self-torture. The insomnia didn't disappear overnight, but it lost its power to paralyze him. There's also the matter of emotional contagion. When you post your anxiety online, you're not just expressing it, you're spreading it. Your 3 a.m. catastrophizing becomes someone else's 7 a.m. bad mood. Your rage tweet joins thousands of others, creating a toxic soup of collective negativity. But when you write in your journal, you contain the emotion. You process it privately, transform it if possible, and prevent it from multiplying in the world. Marcus Aurelius wrote some of his most profound insights during the darkest periods of his reign. Plague ravaged Rome. His generals betrayed him. His son showed signs of the madness that would later destroy the empire. Yet his journal entries from these periods don't wallow in despair. They show a man wrestling with darkness and choosing light. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. Not exactly positive thinking, but radically honest preparation. This brings us to a crucial point. Dumping thoughts on paper isn't about toxic positivity. You don't write "everything is fine" when your world is burning. You write the truth. I'm terrified of losing my job. I hate how my partner spoke to me. I'm drowning in debt and see no way out. The honesty is the medicine. But unlike social media, where honesty often invites advice you didn't ask for or judgment you don't need, paper simply holds space for your truth. A Denver teacher discovered an unexpected benefit of midnight journaling. Her entries became a map of her triggers. She noticed patterns. The insomnia hit hardest after parent-teacher conferences, after visits with her critical mother, after scrolling through former classmates' Facebook successes. Armed with this data, she could prepare for triggering events and gradually reduce those 3 a.m. wake-ups. The practice also builds emotional resilience. When you regularly face your demons on paper, they lose their power to ambush you. That recurring anxiety about money, you've written about it 50 times. You know its contours, its lies, its truths. When it shows up at 3 a.m., you recognize it like an annoying relative. Oh, it's you again. Let's get this over with. The familiarity breeds not contempt but competence. Epictetus taught that we can't control external events, but we can control our responses. Night journaling makes this philosophy practical. You can't stop your teenager from slamming doors or your boss from being unreasonable, but you can control how you process these experiences. Paper becomes your training ground for choosing better responses. Here's a practical framework for middle-of-the-night journaling. Keep a notebook and pen beside your bed. When anxiety strikes, write continuously for 10 minutes without stopping. Don't edit, don't judge, just let it flow. Include the time and date. Patterns matter. The goal isn't beautiful prose but emotional release. In our hyper-connected world, the urge to share every thought feels natural. But the Stoics remind us that some battles are meant to be fought in private. Your journal becomes your dojo, where you train for life's challenges without performing for an audience. In this private space, you can be weak, confused, afraid, all the things that make you human. Through acknowledging these shadows on paper, you gradually transform them into strength. 5. Secret number 5. Watch your thoughts like a scientist. A neuroscientist in Baltimore sits in her lab, observing brain scans of subjects experiencing anxiety. She watches neural patterns light up, documenting each response with clinical detachment. Later that evening, She opens her journal and applies the same scientific observation to her own mind. Noticed irritation arising when email arrived at 6 p.m. Physical sensation, tightness in chest. Thought pattern. They always expect immediate responses. Reality check. Email can wait until tomorrow. She's not just journaling. She's conducting the most important experiment of her life, studying her own consciousness. The fifth and most transformative Stoic secret elevates journaling from emotional dumping ground to scientific laboratory. You become both the researcher and the subject, observing your thoughts with the same objectivity a biologist studies cells under a microscope. This isn't about judging or fixing. It's about watching, documenting, and understanding the patterns that run your life. Marcus Aurelius mastered this practice without modern neuroscience. He wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But notice how he arrived at this wisdom. Throughout his meditations, he constantly observes his own reactions, almost like field notes. Today I felt anger when. I noticed my pride when. He studied himself with the rigor of a natural philosopher, which is exactly what the Stoics considered themselves to be. Here's where most people misunderstand mindfulness and self-observation. They think it means floating above their thoughts in some Zen-like state. But Stoic observation is different. It's active, engaged, almost forensic. You're not trying to empty your mind or achieve enlightenment. You're trying to understand the machinery of your own thinking so you can operate it better. Consider how a scientist approaches an experiment. They form hypotheses, observe results, document everything, and look for patterns. No emotion, no judgment, just data. When you apply this approach to your thoughts, something remarkable happens. That voice in your head saying you're not good enough stops being the truth and becomes simply a data point. There's that thought pattern again. It shows up every Sunday evening. Interesting. A Miami architect discovered this power after his business nearly collapsed. His journal transformed from a place of complaint to a laboratory of observation. Instead of writing, "My clients are idiots," he wrote, "Notice strong frustration when client requested fifth revision." Thought, "They don't respect my expertise." Alternative interpretation, "They're anxious about a big investment." Result, responded with patience instead of defensiveness. This shift from reaction to observation changed not just his journaling but his entire business approach. The Stoics called this practice prosoke, continuous attention to the present moment. But unlike modern mindfulness, which often focuses on breath or body sensations, Stoic attention zeroes in on the intersection of thought and choice. You watch the thought arise, notice the impulse it creates, and document your response. Over time, you build a comprehensive map of your mental patterns. This scientific approach reveals shocking truths about how your mind operates. A Seattle programmer started tracking her thoughts like debugging code. She discovered that 80% of her daily anxiety stemmed from imaginary future conversations that never happened. She spent hours mentally arguing with people who weren't even mad at her. Seeing this pattern documented in black and white, day after day, made it impossible to ignore. The absurdity became obvious. The behavior changed naturally. But here's the crucial element that makes this practice transformative. You must write with the precision of a scientist. Not "felt bad today," but "experienced anxiety." physical? Elevated heart rate, sweaty palms. At 2:15 p.m. after receiving email about project deadline. Initial thought, I'll never finish in time. Secondary thought, they'll think I'm incompetent. Behavioral response, procrastinated for 1 hour scrolling news sites. This level of detail transforms vague suffering into specific, addressable patterns. Epictetus provided the philosophical framework for this practice. He taught that events themselves are neutral, it's our judgments about them that create suffering. But you can't examine your judgments if you're identified with them. The scientific approach creates necessary distance. You stop saying, I am angry, and start saying, I'm observing anger arising in my mental field. This isn't denial or suppression. It's clarity. A Houston emergency room doctor applied this method during the pandemic's worst months. Her journal became a real-time study of how extreme stress affects decision-making. She documented her thought patterns during 18-hour shifts, tracking when fatigue led to irritability, when fear masqueraded as anger, when compassion fatigue set in. This self-knowledge helped her develop specific interventions: a 5-minute breathing break after difficult cases, a protein snack at 3 p.m. to prevent blood sugar crashes that triggered negativity. The practice also reveals the stories you tell yourself repeatedly. We all have internal narratives playing on loop, but we rarely examine them objectively. A Phoenix real estate agent discovered through observation that she ran the same mental movie before every client meeting. They'll think I'm too young. They won't take me seriously. I'll stumble over my words. Documented dozens of times in her journal, the pattern became impossible to ignore. More importantly, she could fact-check it against reality. Actual client feedback? Overwhelmingly positive. The story was fiction, but it had been directing her behavior for years. Scientific observation also means testing interventions. When you notice a destructive pattern, you form a hypothesis about how to change it. Then you test it and document the results. Hypothesis: morning coffee on empty stomach increases anxiety. Test: eat breakfast first for 1 week. Result: 40% reduction in morning anxiety symptoms. You become your own research project, constantly refining your approach based on evidence, not hope. This method particularly shines when dealing with cognitive distortions, those automatic thoughts that twist reality. A Denver teacher documented her tendency toward mind reading. Sarah didn't smile at me. She must be angry about yesterday. By consistently noting these assumptions and later fact-checking them, she discovered her accuracy rate was below 10%. 9 times out of 10, she was creating drama where none existed. The data made it impossible to continue trusting these thoughts. The scientific approach also removes the moral weight from thoughts. In regular journaling, you might write, I'm a terrible person for thinking that. But a scientist wouldn't judge bacteria for dividing. They'd simply observe and document. This emotional neutrality paradoxically creates more change than self-flagellation ever could. When thoughts lose their charge, they lose their power. Seneca compared this practice to a doctor examining a patient. You wouldn't expect a physician to scream at a broken bone or lecture an infection. They observe, diagnose, and treat. Your journal becomes your examination room, where symptoms are noted, patterns diagnosed, and treatments tested. The clinical distance enables effective intervention. The ultimate goal isn't to become an emotionless robot. It's to understand your mental patterns so thoroughly that you can choose your responses rather than being hijacked by them. In essence, you're not just watching your thoughts like a scientist. You're discovering that consciousness itself is the most fascinating phenomenon in the universe, and you have a front row seat to the show. 6. How to use all 5 secrets starting tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, your alarm will ring at the usual time. You'll face the same choice you face every day. Reach for your phone or reach for something better. This section transforms the 5 Stoic secrets from interesting ideas into a practical morning system that takes exactly 15 minutes and changes everything. No perfection required, no special skills needed, just a willingness to show up with pen and paper. Let's map out your new morning ritual with surgical precision. Wake up and resist the phone completely. This isn't just about avoiding emails or social media. It's about protecting your mental sovereignty during the most crucial moments of your day. Your brain is most receptive in the morning, like fresh soil ready for planting. Whatever you feed it first sets the tone for everything that follows. The Stoics understood this, which is why Marcus Aurelius began each day with philosophical reflection before dealing with empire business. Here's your exact sequence. First, keep your journal and pen on your nightstand, not across the room, not in another room, right there where you can reach it without thinking. Physical placement matters more than motivation. When the journal is within arm's reach, you eliminate the excuse machinery before it starts. A Cincinnati banker learned this after failing to journal for years. The simple act of placing his notebook next to his alarm clock created an unbroken 2-year streak. Step 1 engages secret number 1. Write 1 line. Just 1. Don't negotiate with yourself about writing more. Don't let your ambitious mind convince you to write 3 pages. 1 line. It might be, woke up anxious about presentation, or grateful for coffee, or Tuesday feels heavy already. The content matters less than the act. You're not performing literature. You're starting an engine. This single line creates momentum that compounds throughout your day. Step 2 implements secret number 2. Ensure you're writing on physical paper. Feel the weight of the pen. Notice the texture of the page. Hear the scratch of writing. This sensory engagement sends signals to your brain that something important is happening. You're not just recording thoughts. You're participating in an ancient ritual that connects you to thousands of years of human wisdom. A tech executive in Austin keeps her journal in a leather cover specifically because the smell and feel create a Pavlovian response of calm focus. Step 3 activates secret number 3. Write your chosen repeated phrase. This comes immediately after your 1-line check-in. Maybe it's I choose response over reaction, or today I practice patience, or I am enough exactly as I am. Write it slowly, deliberately, like you're carving it into stone. This isn't mindless repetition. It's conscious installation of chosen software into your mental operating system. The key is selecting a phrase that addresses your specific growth edge. Where do you struggle most? That's where your phrase should focus. Step 4 brings secret number 4 into play. Do a quick emotional inventory. Ask yourself, what am I carrying from yesterday that needs to be released? This isn't therapy. It's maintenance. Just as you wouldn't start a road trip with yesterday's trash in your car, don't start your day hauling yesterday's emotional debris. Write down what's bothering you, even if it's petty or irrational. Still angry about that comment in the meeting? Or worried about mom's health? Or frustrated with myself for eating that whole pizza. Get it out of your head and onto paper where it loses its power to hijack your day. Step 5 employs secret number 5. Make one scientific observation about your mental state. Write it like a researcher, noticing tendency to catastrophize about money upon waking. Physical sensation, tight chest. Probable trigger, credit card statement arrived yesterday. This clinical distance transforms you from victim of your thoughts to student of your patterns. You're not drowning in anxiety, you're studying it. This shift changes everything. The entire process takes 15 minutes maximum. 5 minutes for the basic practice, 10 if you're feeling expansive. But here's the non-negotiable rule. You do all 5 steps every single day. No skipping weekends, no vacation breaks, no "I'll double up tomorrow" bargaining. Consistency beats intensity every time. The Stoics valued daily practice over dramatic gestures because they understood how habits reshape character. Now let's address the saboteurs that will try to derail your practice. Your mind will generate excuses with the creativity of a defense attorney. I need coffee first. Fine, bring your journal to the kitchen. I'm not a morning person. Neither was Marcus Aurelius when barbarians were invading. I have nothing interesting to write. Perfect, right? I have nothing interesting to write. Every excuse has a simple countermove. A Chicago nurse discovered the power of this systematic approach after struggling with burnout for years. She tried meditation apps, yoga, therapy, everything. But 15 minutes of structured journaling following these 5 secrets created more change than years of scattered attempts. Why? Because it addresses multiple levels simultaneously. The one-line rule builds consistency. Paper creates focus, repetition installs new patterns, emotional release prevents buildup, and scientific observation provides insight. The sequence matters tremendously. Starting with just one line lowers resistance to 0. Moving to your repeated phrase while your mind is fresh maximizes its impact. Releasing emotional baggage clears space for the day ahead. Ending with scientific observation sends you into your day as an aware participant rather than unconscious reactor. Each step prepares the ground for the next. Common mistakes to avoid include overcomplicating the process. Don't create elaborate rating systems or color-coded categories. Don't buy 17 different journals for different purposes. Don't spend 30 minutes selecting the perfect pen. These are procrastination masquerading as preparation. Keep it simple. 1 notebook, 1 pen, 5 steps, 15 minutes. Another mistake is treating this practice as optional when life gets busy. That's like stopping your medication because you feel better. The practice is what makes you feel better. A Miami entrepreneur nearly lost his business during a crisis. The only stable element in his chaotic days? His morning 15 minutes. He credits this practice with maintaining the clarity that helped him navigate bankruptcy, rebuild, and ultimately thrive. The compound effect of combining all 5 secrets creates something greater than their sum. The one-line rule ensures you show up. Paper makes it real. Repetition rewires your brain. Emotional release prevents explosion. Scientific observation provides wisdom. Together, they transform journaling from a nice idea to a life-changing practice. Remember, tomorrow morning you're not just starting a journaling habit. You're joining a lineage stretching back to the Stoics who used these exact principles to handle challenges that would break most modern minds. They didn't have apps or life coaches or Instagram inspiration. They had ink, paper, and the wisdom to use them. Now you do too. Set your journal beside your bed tonight. Tomorrow morning, your transformation begins with a single line. 7. When ancient emperors meet modern anxiety. A Manhattan therapist sits across from her client, a successful hedge fund manager who can't sleep. He's tried everything: meditation apps, sleep medication, CBT, even a $10,000 sleep optimization program. Nothing works. She pulls out a worn copy of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and reads, "Confine yourself to the present." The client rolls his eyes. How can ancient philosophy help when algorithms and market volatility rule his world? 3 months later, he's sleeping through the night. The answer lies in understanding why Stoic journaling works at the deepest levels of human psychology, regardless of whether you're ruling Rome or managing portfolios. The intersection of ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience reveals something profound. The Stoics intuited truths about the human mind that scientists are only now proving in laboratories. When Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal to manage the stress of plague, war, and betrayal, he was engaging neural mechanisms identical to yours. The technology changed, but the hardware, your brain, remains the same. This is why these practices work across millennia. Let's examine the science that validates each secret. Secret 1, the one-line rule, leverages what psychologists call implementation intention. Research from NYU shows that when you create a simple, specific plan, "I will write one line after waking," you're 300% more likely to follow through than with vague intentions, "I should journal more." The Stoics didn't know the statistics, but they understood the principle. Epictetus taught that wisdom begins with small, consistent actions because he observed this truth in human behavior. A San Francisco startup founder discovered this when traditional stress management failed her. Running on 4 hours of sleep, fueled by caffeine and adrenaline, she was the picture of modern success and ancient suffering. Her therapist introduced Stoic journaling as an experiment. The one-line rule seemed insultingly simple for someone who managed millions in funding. But that simplicity bypassed her overactive analytical mind. One line became her anchor in chaos. 6 months later, her company thrived, but more importantly, so did she. Secret 2's emphasis on paper aligns with cutting-edge research on embodied cognition. UCLA studies demonstrate that handwriting activates regions of the brain associated with learning and memory in ways typing cannot replicate. The physical act of writing creates what researchers call desirable difficulty, a slight challenge that enhances retention and processing. Seneca understood this intuitively when he chose to write letters by hand despite having access to scribes. The effort was the point. Consider what happens in your brain during Secret 3's repetition practice. Each time you write your chosen phrase, you strengthen specific neural pathways through a process called long-term potentiation. Harvard neuroscientists found that repeated exposure to ideas literally changes brain structure. New connections form, old patterns weaken. The Stoics called this philosophical therapy, but it's actually neuroplasticity in action. A Detroit teacher who wrote, "I remain calm in chaos," every morning for a year didn't just learn about calmness. Her brain rewired itself for equanimity. Secret 4's emotional dumping connects to what psychologists term affect labeling. When you write, "I'm anxious about the presentation," your brain's emotional centers actually calm down. fMRI studies at UCLA show that naming emotions reduces amygdala activity by up to 50%. The Stoics practiced this through their evening reflections, turning overwhelming feelings into manageable observations. They discovered that emotions lose their tyranny when translated into words. The fifth secret scientific observation mirrors cognitive behavioral therapy's thought recording, but predates it by 2,000 years. When you observe thoughts objectively, you engage your prefrontal cortex, the brain's executive center, which naturally regulates emotional responses. Stanford research confirms that this metacognitive awareness is the cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Marcus Aurelius developed this skill not through modern psychology, but through disciplined self-observation. Real transformation stories illuminate these principles. A Boston surgeon, burned out after 20 years, found himself fantasizing about quitting medicine. Traditional therapy helped but didn't create lasting change. Then he discovered Stoic journaling. Following all 5 secrets religiously, he experienced what he calls a complete rewiring. The anxiety remained, but his relationship to it transformed. He still faces life and death decisions daily, but now approaches them with what the Stoics called apatheia, not apathy, but equanimity. A phoenix mother of 3, drowning in the chaos of modern parenting, provides another compelling case. Instagram made her feel inadequate, parenting blogs increased her anxiety, and well-meaning advice from friends just added pressure. Stoic journaling became her lifeline. The morning practice created a buffer between her and the day's demands. Writing, "I am enough as I am" every day slowly dissolved years of perfectionism. The scientific observation helped her recognize patterns. She was harshest on herself when tired, more patient after exercise, prone to comparison after social media. The practice works because it addresses anxiety at multiple levels simultaneously. Cognitive, changing thought patterns; behavioral, establishing positive routines; emotional, processing feelings safely; and even spiritual, connecting to timeless wisdom. Modern therapy often focuses on one dimension. Stoic journaling integrates all 4, which explains its unusual effectiveness. Critics might argue that ancient philosophy can't address modern problems like social media addiction, workplace burnout, or information overload. But these are surface variations of eternal human challenges: comparison, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The Stoics dealt with their era's versions of these same issues. Marcus Aurelius managed an empire without email, but he still faced endless demands on his attention. Seneca navigated Roman politics without Twitter, but still dealt with public criticism and character assassination. The key insight is that anxiety itself hasn't evolved, only its triggers have changed. Your nervous system responds to a difficult email exactly as a Roman's responded to a threatening letter. The solution remains the same. Create distance between stimulus and response, process emotions privately, observe patterns objectively, and choose your response consciously. Journaling provides the space for all of this to happen. This isn't about rejecting modernity or pretending we live in ancient Rome. It's about recognizing that human nature has constants, and wisdom that addresses these constants remains relevant across centuries. Your smartphone might be causing problems Marcus Aurelius never imagined, but your brain's reaction to those problems follows patterns he understood intimately. In essence, when ancient emperors meet modern anxiety through the medium of journaling, we discover that the meeting ground is the unchanging human experience. The tools that help them navigate plague, war, and political intrigue help you navigate deadlines, difficult relationships, and digital overwhelm. Not because the problems are identical, but because the human being facing them remains fundamentally the same, capable of wisdom, prone to suffering, and able to transform through practice. Your anxious mind's new best friend. You started this video with racing thoughts at 3 a.m., wondering if ancient philosophy could really fix modern problems. Now you hold 5 secrets that have survived 2,000 years because they work. Not because they're magical, but because they address the unchanging reality of human consciousness. Your anxious mind hasn't met its match. It's met its new best friend. Tomorrow morning, when you wake up, you'll face the same chaotic world. The bills will still need paying. Your boss will still be demanding. Your kids will still test your patience. But you'll have something different. A practice that transforms chaos into clarity, anxiety into wisdom, reaction into response. This isn't positive thinking or denial. It's the development of what Marcus Aurelius called an inner citadel, an unshakable core that external events cannot disturb. The 5 secrets work together like instruments in an orchestra. The one-line rule ensures you show up even when motivation vanishes. Physical paper grounds you in tangible reality, away from digital distractions. Repetition rewires your neural pathways one phrase at a time. Emotional dumping prevents the buildup that leads to explosion. Scientific observation transforms you from victim to student of your own mind. Together, they create a complete system for mental mastery that fits in 15 morning minutes. Here's what makes this practice different from every other solution you've tried. It doesn't require believing in anything except your own capacity to observe and choose. You don't need to download an app, join a community, or buy a course. You need paper, a pen, and the willingness to show up for yourself every single day. The Stoics built their philosophy on practicality, not theory. These journaling secrets embody that practical wisdom. The transformation happens gradually, then suddenly. For weeks, you might feel like nothing's changing. You write your one line, repeat your phrase, observe your patterns. Then one day, in the middle of a situation that would normally trigger panic, you pause. You respond instead of react. You realize the practice has been working beneath the surface, like water slowly carving a new channel for the river of your thoughts. Remember, you're not just adopting a journaling habit. You're joining a lineage of practical philosophers who faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and every form of human suffering with grace and wisdom. They didn't have perfect lives. They had effective practices. Now these practices belong to you, adapted for your modern challenges but rooted in timeless truth. Your anxious mind has been searching for peace in all the wrong places, in your phone, in others' approval, in perfect circumstances that never arrive. The journal offers something different, a space where anxiety transforms into understanding, where patterns become visible, where wisdom grows through daily practice. Not overnight transformation, but steady evolution. Not perfection, but progress. If these 5 Stoic secrets resonated with you, if you're ready to transform your mornings and your mind, subscribe to Stoic Vivu. We're building a community of modern Stoics who believe ancient wisdom shouldn't stay ancient. Hit the notification bell to join thousands discovering that the best solutions to modern problems are often the oldest ones. Like this video if it helped you, Share it with someone who needs these secrets, and remember, tomorrow morning, your new practice begins with just one line.